Welcome to this edition of ACAP Today for the week of November 23rd, 2020. I'm Jason Parent with the Aroostook County Action Program. On this week's program, we begin a new series, the Maine Leaders Conversation Series. Over the next several weeks through the holiday season and into the new year, we'll be talking with Maine leaders across the state that represent us both in Augusta and Washington. This week, we're going to kick off the series with a conversation with Representative/Senator-elect Trey Stewart of here in Presque Isle. We're going to continue the discussion in the coming weeks. We've got State Senator, Senate President Troy Jackson, who will be joining us, as well as U.S. Senator Susan Collins, U.S. Senator Angus King. We're going to be joined by Representative and Congressman Jared Golden. We're also going to be joined by Dr. Shaw from the Maine CDC. That's all coming up in future weeks. But again, today we begin our series and that interview in just a little bit with Representative/Senator-elect Trey Stewart from here in Presque Isle, who was just recently elected to the Maine State Senate. But before we sit down for our interview with Trey Stewart, we're going to first begin with the news and information that you can use on this November 23rd or week of November 23rd. And this is, of course, Thanksgiving week here across the United States. So ACAP joins in extending our wishes for a very happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Please enjoy the holiday, and of course, please practice all of the social distancing guidelines and everything that is being asked of us. It will be a different Thanksgiving. Many families will not be getting together, and we urge you to practice safety and caution during this holiday season to help stop the spread of COVID-19, which has been continuing to rampage our communities. We also want to, in this Thanksgiving week, extend our gratitude to the Aroostook County community. The Helping Hands for Warm and Safe Homes Telethon was a huge success on WAGM TV last Thursday. Our partnership with WAGM, with the United Way of Aroostook, and all of the folks here at the Aroostook County Action Program resulted in a whopping over $70,000 raised. That's the largest telethon ever that WAGM's been a part of, and certainly that we've been a part of. And we are so thankful it wouldn't have happened without all of you out there. So thank you so much for all of your generous donations. In addition to the over $70,000 raised, numerous appointments were made for individuals for the Home Energy Assistance Program, some taken right that day and others made for weeks to come. The COVID-19 rental relief program has been extended. This is great news for folks. It has been extended through December. Applications for December are now available on the Maine Housing website. We encourage folks to go visit the Maine Housing website. It can also be found and linked through the ACAP website. Renters who are unable to pay for their rent due to COVID-19 are those who are eligible for this program. Funding was available through the months of September and October and November recently, but we just found out last Friday that funding will now be available for December, and those applications are available. So please, if you are having difficulty paying for your rent because of COVID-19, we encourage you to go to the website, mainehousing.org/COVID-rent. We did mention earlier in the broadcast the Home Energy Assistance Program, some very important information around that. The eligibility guidelines have increased, and we are encouraging folks to call us. For a household of one, the eligibility guidelines have increased by over $10,000 from just 2 years ago. So for example, if you are a household of one, in 2018, for example, you had to have an income under $18,000. Now the income level is under $28,000, or just around the $28,000 mark. So please do look on our website for the latest income guidelines, and please do give us a call for an appointment if you think you might be eligible based on those guidelines. We'd love to sit down with you. And of course, today sitting down with you means that we're sitting down with you over the phone. So if you have questions, give us a call at 764-3721. We do remind all customers who are having HEAP appointments and who have already scheduled their HEAP appointments and have received that notice that they will all be conducted over the phone, and all of the eligibility paperwork will be sent to you by mail unless you direct otherwise. If you'd like to come in for an appointment, we are making allocations for that, so please do let us know. But otherwise, all work will be done through the mail and over the phone. Speaking of deadlines that are coming up rapidly, the open enrollment period for the healthcare marketplace, healthcare insurance marketplace, is coming right up on December 15th. We have just a few weeks left to go. Open enrollment runs through the 15th. If you are in need of health insurance or would like to know what your options are, including the option to be entered into Maine Care, we will work with you on the eligibility for Maine Care and help you determine if you might be eligible for Maine Care. Please contact us for navigation assistance. Stan Targonski is our navigator who is providing assistance. He does it all virtually, all remotely. If you need an in-person appointment, we are glad to set one up for you at ACAP's Hope and Prosperity Resource Center out in the industrial park here in Presque Isle, and we can certainly arrange that for you. But please give us a call. He will explain options, talk about tax credits you might access, and help you apply for and enroll for coverage all through the open enrollment. Please do call him today to schedule an appointment. We also are very well aware of the spread of COVID-19, the increased numbers across the state of Maine, and the governor's mask mandate that she recently issued this past month. So please, if you are in need of masks for any reason, we have them available at our facilities in Presque Isle, Holton, and Fort Kent, the Presque Isle facility near Walmart specifically, our Military Street facility in Holton, and our facility, our Early Care and Education Center on the Industrial Park on Alfalfa Street in Fort Kent. If you are in need of masks, please do stop by during our open hours and we will gladly provide you with a mask at no charge to you, similar to the one that you're seeing ACAP Executive Assistant Gloria Duncan wearing on this picture here in this slide. Speaking of our offices and visiting our offices, please do note that our offices are open by appointment over the phone and virtually, and we also offer curbside assistance. And those are specifically our Presque Isle and Holton Military Street offices. We do have ways that we are accessing folks. The doors are locked, but there's a phone number in the Holton and Presque Isle facility, as you can see on the banner above the door here, that we ask that you call, and we will help direct you, including if you need to come into the building, where we will take care of all appropriate protocols, including taking your temperature and asking you a series of questions to access services. Now, that noted, our offices are closed this Thursday and Friday, November 26th and 27th, for the Thanksgiving holiday. So please do contact us Monday through Wednesday this week, and we'll certainly be back at it next Monday, the 30th of November is when our offices will reopen after the Thanksgiving holiday. Speaking of assistance that folks need out there, our navigators here at ACAP are available. We understand that many folks are suffering or are challenged at this time, and many don't know where to turn for help because they've never had to before. That's why ACAP has established a navigator program. Call us at 764-3721 and ask to speak with a navigator, and they can assist you and help direct you and enroll you for programs and services that you may be eligible for, and check on that eligibility for and with you. The community closet is also a very valuable resource for individuals who are needing clothing at this time. We also have a clothing rack outside that has coats on it. There is a small kiosk area that has been set up in front of our 771 Main Street facility, just to the left or on the east side of the building as you're looking at the ACAP building. It's right there outside. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's available for folks to drop off clothing or coats. There are racks for both there, and also pick up clothing as you coats project out in front of the 771 Main Street office here at ACAP. The community cupboard is not far from that location, right on our 771 Main Street campus here, just to the left of our main entrance doors. It is give what you can, take what you need. So we encourage you, if you have non-perishable food items that you'd like to donate, you can leave them right in the cupboard. And if you are in need of an emergency food for any reason, you can certainly visit the community cupboard there and take whatever you need at that moment. It's not intended to be a long-term solution or a multi-day solution, but something to help you if you are experiencing hunger at the moment. Our housing team is looking for qualified contractors to work with us. More details and an application can be found on our ACAP website under our energy and housing programs. We are inviting bidders, contracts to provide weatherization services on homes, as well as looking for firms that are interested in providing us with weatherization materials, building construction firms that have available materials that they would like to bid on for a project. Contact Randy. He's the coordinator of our housing program, Randy Rattray, at 768-3023, or you can email him at housing@acap-me.org to ask for more questions or the bid specifications, which more information again is available on our website as well. We also are inviting folks to join our team. We have some openings right now. You can go to acap-me.org and you can look on Indeed as well for a Aroostook County Action Program and see some of the offerings that we have across Aroostook County, including the ones noted here on your screen. Last Thursday, in the midst of all of the telethon excitement, also happened to be the day of the Great American Smokeout. And ACAP has programs here that support not only individuals, but businesses and organizations as well, in terms of developing tobacco-free policies within your businesses. Chastity Holland here at ACAP is the contact person for that program. This program it's free to businesses and organizations, and not only helps you establish policies within your workplace around tobacco use, but also helps you with free signage, such as the signage that you're seeing here on your screen for companies that successfully work with us on developing anti-tobacco programs. So if you're out there and you run a company organization that is looking for an anti-tobacco policy or a tobacco control policy, please do give us a call, and Chastity is happy to help with that. We also have a tobacco cessation program, tobacco quit program, which was very busy during the Great American Smokeout last Thursday, but any day of the year is a good day to quit smoking. So we offer free and convenient help through Elaine Sipe, who is the program coordinator for this work. She can connect you with quit kits. She has virtual meetings that she hosts. She can help you make a quit date plan and connect you with free nicotine replacement therapies. It's a very valuable service, and Elaine is very much looking forward to helping you. Give her a call at 554-4151 or email her at esipe@acap-me.org if you would like to quit smoking. In the holiday season is a great time to begin quitting smoking, as many people are looking forward to making that New Year's resolution. And lastly, in the news and information that you can use this week, our 3 local workforce boards have collaborated to provide free virtual employment workshops and information sessions to help individuals connect to resources, build job skills, and find and maintain employment during the crazy days of this pandemic. They are all offered virtually. Please do contact us here or visit our website for more information on these. ACAP is among the organizations that are teaching these courses, and they are available online. The topics that you see there on your screen are among the topics that are offered on a regular and rotating basis. So please do reach out if you would like to participate in these workforce collaborative workshops offered by the 3 local workforce boards and their partner entities that provide the services across the state of Maine. And that's this week's news and information you can use from here at the Aroostook County Action Program. And as we discussed at the top of the webisode, we are launching our Maine Leaders Conversation series on ACAP Today for the next several weeks, all the way through the new year. We are going to be sitting down and having conversations, one-on-one conversations with some of Maine's top leaders, both at the state and at the national level. And I'm very pleased that we are joined on the very first of these Maine Leaders Conversation series with our own board member, who is the Senator-elect, the outgoing House Minority Assistant Leader in the State House of Representatives. And first, I want to congratulate you, Trey Stewart, on your recent election to the Maine Senate, representing District 2, Presque Isle, Fort Fairfield South. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate it. And thanks for providing the opportunity to be here today.
And it is great to have you, and it's very fitting that we're having you launch this series with us, because you're very connected to the work that we do, and are a great board member here for the Aroostook County Action Program. First, before we get into talking about some of the specifics of the work that you're looking forward to in the next session, I'm going to be asking each of our guests to sort of give me your look back on 2020. I'm so glad that we're talking about the new year, because I'm hoping that the turning of the page on the calendar is going to mean sort of a turning of the misfortunes that we've all been experiencing in 2020. But as you reflect back on the year that was, that still is at this point, but hopefully will be was soon, what are your thoughts?
That's a great question. And certainly, I think you hit the nail on the head that I think a lot of folks, if we could, we just sort of skip over this and just get to the new year and hopefully a brighter tomorrow. I know it's been a frustrating year for a lot of folks, myself included. And we've seen challenges like we've never seen in the history of the state and history of the country and the history of the world, I think. The solace there is that we're all getting through it together, and everybody's impacted by it, regardless of where you live. I have tried really hard this year to find silver linings wherever possible. And I talked a little bit about this on the campaigns. Some of the things, not everything in 2020 was bad, and certainly not everything that has changed in dealing with things like a global pandemic have been bad. I mean, obviously it's not a good situation to be in, but there are some takeaways that I think will lead to some positive outcomes in the long run. A couple of things that come to mind. I'm in law school. Law school went from being 100% in the classroom. You have to be in Portland. You have to be in, your seat to 100% virtual. And that's a big deal, particularly for people that live in places like Aroostook County and parts of rural Maine, because we've only got one law school in Maine, in our state. And it precluded a lot of people who would otherwise like to go to a professional school like Maine Law from being able to do so. And at the same time, we also have a serious shortage of attorneys in rural Maine. And so this shift that was really forced upon the university is one that I think is going to yield a lot of positive outcomes in long term. Similarly, I know that telehealth has expanded significantly, and that's something that both helps to improve outcomes by increasing access to healthcare for folks that may have otherwise not be able to get in to see a doctor, either because of their work schedule or because of their general position, and also reducing costs. And being able to lower the cost out of pocket for those visits for folks if they can pick up the phone and talk to a specialist in Boston without leaving, Fort Fairfield or Presque Isle. That's a big deal, because, that's 2 full days of driving for sometimes what maybe a 30-minute visit. And if you can do all that from the comfort of your own home, you're going to save a lot of money, save a lot of time, and be more likely to take those visits with your doctor, whereas you may otherwise say, look, that's too much, I just can't do it. Now you're going to be able to still at least get in to see that specialist or whoever that may not live anywhere near you. Those are a couple examples. I think, trying to focus in on those and expand those opportunities going forward is going to be important, so that, we're not just looking at the negative, but also looking, okay, what were the good teachable moments for us as a state and as a community? And how do we make sure that those positive outcomes continue into the future? And I think that things like that are going to be what certainly at least the start of next year is going to be about. And I'm sure that you folks at ACAP had a bunch of takeaways as well of, how can we figure out, how to continue to provide the quality services that folks need in Aroostook County, while still doing things like maintaining social distancing and practicing, those other safe public health practices.
Yeah, certainly to that point, very proud of our team, and you have the regular opportunity to hear about the work that we do at our board meetings. But part of what you were talking about before we get into your move to the upper chamber and your what you're looking forward to in the coming session, as you were talking through, I thought about you must be reflecting in this year about your family legacy, because I mean, you're talking about becoming a lawyer and following in your father's footsteps, who's become a judge, and is well respected throughout Aroostook County and really statewide, and that you're also following in your grandfather's footsteps, which I don't ever lose sight of, in that Bud Stewart was a member of the legislature as well. So as people have sort of come in together in this last year and been really driven about what's important in family and the like, I imagine you've also reflected on that legacy as you've run for the upper chamber this year.
Yeah, certainly. And I was able to, with this recent campaign for the Senate, get back down to Holton and really sort of get in touch with my family's roots. That was where my grandfather was from. He was born and raised in Linneus and went to Holton High School, and then, lied about his age. Probably not the last lie he ever told, but he lied about his age and said he was 18 when he was 16 and joined the Navy and took off, which was what a lot of his cohort did during that time, during World War II. And then came back to the county and made a great life for himself and his family here. And it was really cool to be able to, hear some stories about folks that grew up with him or that knew him really well when he was practicing law, and get in touch with those folks down in the Holton area. Had a great time doing that. And it's another silver lining, I think, of the pandemic, is that it's created some free time, particularly in the beginning of all this, to spend with family. If you don't have a billion places that you got to go, or you're not on the road. I was putting 1,000 miles a week on my vehicle prior to March, and then the pandemic hit, and I hit about 2 miles a week, and I'd run to the grocery store and back, and that was about it. So created a lot more time to be with family and loved ones, and be able to get in touch with the things that really matter again. So that was a refreshing thing, and certainly the timing of this and hearing those stories about not just my grandfather, but my grandmother, who was incredibly involved in the community as well on my dad's side, and meeting those folks. And that's been the most fun part of the campaigns, is hearing those stories when you're out talking with folks, and still finding ways to get creative and still run a campaign that involves connecting with people personally, but doing it so in a safe manner, that enables those stories to be shared and then passed on. And I've certainly appreciated that opportunity a lot.
So as you transition from being Representative Stewart to Senator Stewart in the coming weeks, what are your thoughts heading into 2021, the new legislative session, and what your priorities will be, and what you think the work will look like?
Well, I'll start with answering the last question first. It's going to be different. And I know it's going to be a challenge, particularly for folks who are more on the advocacy side of the work that gets done in the legislature, yourself included, and the Maine CAP agency included, as well as a number of other stakeholders who it's going to be tougher, I think, to get in touch in person with legislators as individuals. Whereas in the past, it's pretty easy. You're in the hallways, you can see somebody as they're walking in or out of the chamber, and at least have a minute or two to touch base with them and make your pitch more or less about why a certain policy is important to families in Aroostook County, or why something needs to pass in order to help improve lives here, or the opposite. In some instances, if it's going to create problems, and that's going to be tough. I know that for swearing in day, we're going to be at the Augusta Civic Center instead of the State House. And that'll look incredibly different. I don't know how long-term that plan is going to be, whether that will be what things look like in January when we get back in there as well. I don't know what the schedule will look like. That's another thing that's been brought to my attention as a possibility, that maybe we just focus on a budget for the first few months and not the thousands of other bills that we'll have to take up. That way we can really sort of zero in on what needs to be addressed right out of the gate, which is our financial situation as a state, and then set those other things aside and maybe come back in at a later point next year and deal with those once things have settled down a little bit with the coronavirus. And hopefully the latest news with the vaccines that are getting approval and that look really promising Hopefully we'll have some time for those to roll out as well, so the folks that are really concerned with the virus can protect themselves that way. So the long and the short of it is I don't know what it's going to look like. I just know it'll be different, and time will tell as we get a little bit closer. One thing is for sure, we will be going back into session in January. We will be sworn in December. Those things have to happen by statute, and so the ball will initially get kicked. At that point, it's just a question of how long does it stay up in the air and where does it land. That's still to be determined. So to address your question about priorities, I think the big one that is sort of the big elephant in the room is our financial position. We're going to be dealing with, I believe it's about $1.5 billion shortfall over the next 3 years, and we create 2-year budgets as a state. And so, and I know you and I have talked about this previously, that the important thing for me is going to be making sure that the services that are being provided currently to the people who are most vulnerable among us and have the greatest amount of need are able to continue to access those services. And the C word, cuts, is one that I think is going to be a real challenge to try to navigate. How do we try to mitigate our impact on the people who are most vulnerable, while at the same time not doing something that's going to make Maine even less competitive in terms of a business or regulatory environment, so that we can continue to draw people into Maine. And I think that this is another silver lining, that when things started to really get crazy in New York and Boston and Seattle and all these other places where the virus sort of exploded, there was a lot of migration that happened. And, I've talked about this for years. The Aroostook Partnership has talked about this for years, that the outmigration issue in Aroostook County is a real thing, and is a real problem that needs to be addressed, particularly as we head into the next decade and more baby boomers leave the workforce. If we don't bring more people in, we are going our economy is going to essentially flatline. And that's not a political opinion. That's based on the facts and figures that have been presented to me time after time after time by the experts, and that's what they are all saying. So this would be a good time to capitalize on that. It would be a good time to be strategic in how we market, not just Maine, but Northern Maine and Aroostook County, to those folks who want to have a better, safer, more positive, environment to raise their families and to grow up and have the experiences that anybody that grew up in Aroostook County can tell you about, which is that, we've got high quality education up here. We have access to all 4 seasons. If you enjoy being outside, this is the place to be. Even in the winter when it gets a little chilly, there's plenty of stuff to do. And a really, really strong community network that's filled with a bunch of people who work hard every day to try to improve the lives of the folks around them. You and your team included in that, Jason. And so this is the time to be thoughtful about what we're going to do long term. Even out of every crisis comes an opportunity, and I think that these are the opportunities that we need to really cultivate now, as a state government, but also as a regional government. I think included in that, the Aroostook County government, the local governments, all of those folks need to be at the same table, because we can do something here. We can turn a bad thing into a good thing in the long run. And this may very well be the opportunity that Aroostook County needs to do exactly that.
You mentioned in that, Senator-elect Stewart, you talked about the cuts, the potential cuts that are coming. I think we all know that there's going to have to be some reality check here, a belt tightening. Are you concerned, as I am, about the confluence of that happening at the same time that the results of the decennial census come in, and really the challenges that rural rim counties like Aroostook County will face in the state of Maine, as a result of those two things happening at the same time, and maybe some funding cuts for vital programs for folks happening simultaneously?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a big concern. Whatever, if there need to be cuts at the end of the day, what I don't want to see are cuts that disproportionately impact rural Maine, compared to our urban counterparts. And at the same time, I don't want to see cuts that impact low-income families disproportionately to their higher income counterparts as well. And so I think what we need to do is just sit back and take a breath and really be honest with ourselves about what the situation is looking like. And then also make sure that the voices are heard from those folks who are from rural Maine. And you mentioned the census, right? It's projected that we're going to lose, because it's based on population, we're going to lose representation in Augusta when the next census comes out. And in fact, redistricting will be one of those things that we do in this upcoming legislature that is a big deal and is going to take up a lot of attention and time. And when that happens, we need to try to find a way to mitigate our harm as far as our decreasing representation goes. But at the same time, we need to make sure that, you know, the folks that we are sending to Augusta are firing on all cylinders, and that we are working as a team, and that we are being able to row in the same direction together with a strong unified voice, particularly when those issues come up that are really centric to Aroostook County. And that's going to take, I think, folks being able to recognize, and historically speaking, we've done a good job of this as a delegation, being able to put things aside that are for the betterment of Aroostook County. You know, my grandfather was a part of that when, you know, when he was in the legislature, some, you know, geez, what was it, 60 years ago now, that was, and the end result was that we were able to open Northern Maine Community College, which was then called NVTI, because of that sort of approach. And I think that a challenge like this and the financial, you know, problems that we're facing is going to resemble a lot of those sort of olden style debates and issues where, you know, you've got Northern Maine versus Southern Maine, and it shouldn't have to be that way. But the reality is that that's probably going to be where some of the battle lines are going to be drawn. And so just making sure that when those situations do come up, if they do, that we're all going to be on the same page and rowing the same direction, and have a plan that we can roll out that will make sure that rural Maine doesn't get shortchanged, because we already know, as you mentioned, the situation up here is more challenging than it is in some other parts of the state. And, you know, we really need to be unified and work as a team in order to fix some of those problems, particularly this year, more so, I think, than any others that we've seen in the past.
Indeed, I think we know, I believe I looked at the census figures, and between the decennial census of 2000 and 2010, we had seen a 4.6% decline in population, and just the estimates between 2010 and 2018 show a 5.7% at that point. So I think it's going to be a challenging number. And though granted, I do want to, you know, credit, and then hopefully we're turning the corner on that by what you just noted there, and the in-migration that we're hopefully going to see and continue to see for people who value the quality of life that we offer. So thank you for your efforts around making sure that we're looking to grow the economic base of Aroostook County. One of the things I want to circle in on, which I know is one of your passion issues, I think you at the state level and Senator Collins at the federal level are the lead proponents, really, on the legislative level, of moving forward what we mentioned earlier, what you mentioned earlier around the whole family, or what was formerly known as the two-generation approach. And that really falls directly in line with your key legislative priorities about helping people get to work and helping bring employment to rural Maine. So talk about what it is that we had this forum with Senator Collins at the end of August at our Holton facility, where you were able to hear from the individuals who are impacted, and you get that opportunity at board meetings on a regular basis. But your thoughts about what you see and why other legislators should join you on the effort to support that approach.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing it up, because that was really well, beyond just being a really cool and great day to be able to hear some of those success stories. It really underscored the importance, to me at least, of continuing to focus on that sort of work. And what we're talking about is reducing barriers, which is really what it is, to folks who are on public assistance that may have grown up in generational poverty, may know nothing but generational poverty, and not have any idea what options are even available to them as a human being, let alone a citizen of the state of Maine and on the federal level of the United States. And a part of that problem is that you have so much bureaucracy, so much red tape, so many regulations that were originally well-intended and have what we refer to in the business as unintended consequences. And what those do is they make it very hard for people to move themselves out of the position that they're in and into a position of success and prosperity and self-fulfillment and independence. And some of the things are simple, just communicating across different departments about what opportunities are available or different ways to, your term, blending and braiding funding from different streams to be able to do the thing that you need to do, right? If a program says, well, we'll get you a bus pass, right, for your transportation, but what the individual, that may work fine in Portland, but it may not work as well in a place like Madawaska. And so, taking what I like to refer to as putting the human back into the equation. That at the end of the day, what we're talking about are people. We're not talking about figures and letters on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet on the computer. We're talking about an actual person, a mother, a father, a child, a grandparent, who knows, and making the government and the service that government is providing work for them to be able to address the problem that they're facing. And in doing so, move that individual off of public assistance and into an independent capacity where they no longer will need to draw upon those resources, and somebody else behind them can continue to utilize them, and at the end of the day save money from that. And it's an approach that's been kicked around a lot and talked about and sort of nibbled around the edges, but it wasn't until the last couple of years that we really did some meaningful reforms. And I worked with Sarah Gideon on the state level and Susan Collins on the federal level to bring those reforms forward. And I mean, those two folks were political opponents, right? But we all saw eye to eye on this issue, Republicans, Democrats, it doesn't matter, because when you can sit down at the end of the day and figure out what's really going on, and that's the key, right? Figure out what's really happening in this situation, why this person, what barrier exists. If somebody can make more money from staying on their public assistance benefits than they can if they got a job at the position that they're in right now, they're never going to leave. And that's the reality of human beings we're rational, thinking creatures, right? And at the end of the day, if you told me I could make, $800 a week, let's just say, from staying at home and not applying for work and not, enrolling in a public education or a higher education field, and I have two kids at home that are dependent on my income, it's a pretty logical choice, right? Whereas if you're able to do things like customize the benefit and make it, putting things on a sliding scale, it's a simple, common sense sort of approach, but it hasn't been able to be done because Republicans and Democrats couldn't agree on it in Augusta. And we were able to change that. And, as this program, these changes roll out, I'm looking forward to hearing more success stories. I think, that was just sort of the tip of the iceberg, I hope. I know it will be. And I know that there'll be a lot more successes coming, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about those when they do.
Well, the work that you were able to pioneer is actually benefiting not only individuals here in the state of Maine, but I can share with you just today that ACAP's COO, Jamie Chandler, and I were asked to speak to a group of the Department of Health and Human Services in Virginia about what we've been able to do here at this agency. Our National Community Action Partnership asked us because of the work that we've done and that we've been able to pioneer in partnership with you. So It's working and it's being used as a model and a mentor for others. What I don't want to lose sight of in this conversation, though, is that one of your other areas that you've done a tremendous amount of work on that's sort of gotten lost in the pandemic is around the opioid epidemic and even the whole family approach, as we heard in Holton from one of the participants in our whole family approach programming, is that it helps individuals who are in recovery really stay in recovery because it changes the circumstances around them. So I don't want to leave this interview without letting you speak about this other issue that you've been very passionate about and in helping rural Maine in particular cope with.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I appreciate that opportunity because it is one that is still very prevalent. And I think even more so with the pandemic going on, it's just not getting as much attention as it previously was. And I think that's a real shame because we're still seeing those overdose death rates continue to tick up in Maine, even though we've made some progress. Folks who are dealing with addiction, which at the end of the day is really, it's a mental health issue. And simply put, we really struggle to provide the resources to folks in rural parts of the state, not just in Aroostook County, but around the state, with the resources that they need, the access to mental health care providers and experts who can help these people transition out of addiction. And I mean, the thing about the opioid crisis is, and has been for a long time, that these are people who are not, they're not necessarily the traditional drug users that, you grew up, hearing about it as a kid, seeing the shadowy guy on the street corner and what, that we're talking about people who, were seniors in high school. They were the star athletes, hardworking folks, and they got hurt, and maybe they blew an ACL in a soccer game, or, maybe they got hurt on the job, working, down to, in the manufacturing capacity or whatever. And a part of that treatment process at that time was a prescription for a painkiller, and most synthetic painkillers are what we call opioids, and they're incredibly addictive. And hindsight is 2020, and we've realized that we've been really killing ourselves in that aspect, not intentionally, but because we didn't know what we didn't know. And now more and more is coming out that maybe some folks did, and those folks will have to answer for what happened there. But, I don't look at these folks and have an axe to grind or anything like that. I view them as people that genuinely need help, because that is often, more often than not, that's what's going on. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of resources up here. We're making good progress. I know in Holton, there was just another facility that just opened right in downtown Holton, and that's wonderful. And I talked with those folks during the campaign. So I was running around, figuring out what's going on there. But there's, to say that Holton is going to serve all of Southern Aroostook County, if you live in Bridgewater and you don't have a car, how's that going to work? Or if you're in Presque Isle but you're over in you live in Patton, but the nearest facilities in Holton or Presque Isle, how's that going to work? And that's what we need to get better at, I think, is utilizing creative options. You talked about hub and spoke earlier. In terms of transportation, I think hub and spoke is a good model too for mental health services, and certainly utilizing what we've gotten better at throughout the epidemic with telehealth is another option that we need to expand upon. At the end of the day, it's going to cost money, and this is going to be a rough year for money and money related issues. But I think it's one that is so important because it's still killing people, right? There is no second bite of the apple. There is no, well, in 2 years when the economy takes another, uptick, we'll have more cash to spend as a state and we'll deal with it then. It doesn't work that way. Addiction doesn't wait for a pandemic to be over. In fact, it tightens its grip on people when they have no place else to go and things are shut down and they're isolated. And we need to do something about that. And I think that's going to come to a head this session. If it doesn't, I'm going to force it to one in one way, shape, or form down there. And it's certainly a top priority of mine. If nothing else, figuring out how to get more mental health services to rural Maine has got to be at the top of the list, and it is for me.
Excellent. Well, you know that you and I could go on for hours talking. In fact, we have in the past, and I want to be both considerate of your time and for the time of anybody who's stayed with us this long and watching this webisode of ACAP Today and the first of our Maine Leaders Conversation series. Before I ask you the last question about what you're resolving in 2021, is there anything that you wanted to mention or that we haven't spoken about that you wanted to make sure folks knew about?
Sure. Well, I will just say, if folks that are watching have any thoughts, comments, concerns, ideas that they would like to see, brought up, please reach out. We've got a great staff down in Augusta that can help if you can't find contact info. But I'll say this, my email is very easy, right? It's Trey, T-R-E-Y, at Trey Stewart, STEWART.com. You send me an email, I'll read it. I promise I'll read it. Just don't be bashful about contacting your members of the legislature, because it's a citizen legislature, right? We work for you. This is not a full-time thing for me or anybody else down there. Because that's not how it's structured in Maine. You have to do something else. And so we're busy folks, but we work for you. And if you have ideas that you think are important enough, or you've been thinking about something, or you have a possible solution to some of these really big problems, and that's what we're talking about, are really big and complex and complicated problems, reach out. Because, who knows? I mean, with the opioid crisis, I passed a bill last session because of exactly that. Somebody reached out and they had an idea, and I know that the bill is going to help expand access to life-saving Narcan, and I'm sure that it already has helped to save some lives, and I can't take credit for that. It wasn't my idea, it was somebody else's. But it was just, I was a sponsor of the bill, but we worked together and we got it done. And so even if it's a wonky idea, or you're not quite sure how to handle it, don't be bashful. Reach out to us.
You've had a number of, you mentioned that one, but I think about the work that you did with Heidi Ratcliffe on the TANF reforms that allowed people on TANF to actually earn a high school equivalency diploma, which previously wasn't allowable. Just a simple thing like that you were able to provide a fix for. So I think we can attest here at ACAP that you are very responsive to your constituents. And it's great to see that constituent base is now growing into Southern Aroostook and Northern Penobscot County as well.
Thanks, Jason.
So that brings me to the last question, and this can be either personal or political in terms of what you're resolving for 2021.
It's a great question, and you tipped me off to it before now, and I've been thinking about it during the whole conversation. I mean, I think, I guess my biggest resolve it's twofold. One is to do more listening. I think that's always something that, and not just me, but I think everybody can, if we're listening, we're going to learn. And I think that's an important, certainly with somebody that's in my position, it involves a lot of listening if you want to do your job well. That and remaining positive, right? And it's really tough. I know that sounds easy. It's not easy. I mean, there's days when, I'm just like everybody else, right? That it can be frustrating at times, particularly right now. But finding ways to stay positive, and whether that's, being with, your family, or finding some comfort in, your religion or whatever you believe in, or, just, looking for those silver linings, right? And continuing to try to do that. So those would be my two. More listening and staying positive. And I think if we all did that, if I get better at that, I'll be better off, certainly. And I think we all probably will be. So.
Good choices and great advice on that. I do want to, as we thank you for joining us, and I do want to say thank you very much for spending time and being the kickoff to our Maine Leaders Conversation series that we're going to continue through the new year. I do want to echo with what Representative Stewart said about reaching out. You can do that to us here at ACAP as well. We have a number of services that if you are struggling right now for whatever reason, and maybe don't know where to turn, because a lot of folks at this point are experiencing difficulty for the first time and have never had to turn for some of the support and services that we offer, please do reach out to us. Our phone number is on your screen. You can email us. You can visit our website. It's been recently redesigned, and there's a lot of areas on the website, such as rental assistance, which are very prominent. A home energy assistance program, things that we can help you with. We also have a group of navigators that are waiting to help individuals who don't know where to turn, and they can help navigate through services, whether they're offered through our agency or through other community partners, even through government resources. And where we can't find them, we oftentimes connect with Representative Senator-elect Stewart to help us find them as well. So we do work very closely together, and we encourage you to reach out to us as you need anything at this time. And lastly, we end each week as we do with our snapshot of the week for this episode of ACAP Today. And we're beginning our Leaders series. We're beginning our Celebrating Milestone Employees series. This is Victoria Corey, who works at our Caribou Early Care and Education Center. She helps get students to and from the center safely and home in the evening as a bus monitor, but during the day spends time inside our center helping in many different ways, including working with children at the center. Vicky's favorite ACAP memory is, although she has too many to pick just one, is that she loves helping children create artwork. She enjoys encouraging them to be creative and seeing their amazing finished work. And for that, and for all you do and have done for the last 20 years for the Aroostook County Action Program, Vicki Corey, we thank you for the great work that you do and your colleagues across our agency do each and every day to help make life better. With that, we'll be back next week with another webisode of ACAP Today and another conversation with a Maine leader. We'll see you then.